Hey guys, happy Sunday, and welcome to my garage. Today we're going to be talking about a parable that Jesus told. Now, a parable is just a story that has a meaning. It's meant to teach something. So, most of the parables we look at might be true, could be true, but aren't necessarily true. They're just stories, they're illustrations that Jesus used to help make his point. In this parable, we're going to find towards the end of Matthew. And it's about a test that a rich man gave to some of his servants. Now, if you look on my workbench here, I have a bunch of things that we use for testing stuff. Testing cars and testing electric and testing all kinds of things. So, we use these things to find out if something is doing the job it is supposed to, or if it can do the job it's supposed to. Because not everything can do a certain job. And sometimes you need to ask that question and say, okay, can this do this job? And in the parable we're going to look at today, this master is going to ask his servants, can you do a certain job? Can you be trusted with a certain job? And so the parable talks about God asking us, can we do the job that he's asking us to do? Are we trustworthy with what he gives us? You can find this parable in Matthew chapter 25. We're going to be looking at verses 14 through 30, so it's a long section. We'll be breaking it up and looking at different pieces of it. But first, let's start with verse 14. Again, the kingdom of heaven can be illustrated by the story of a man going on a long trip. He called together his servants and entrusted his money to them while he was gone. He gave them 5 bags of silver to one. He gave 2 bags of silver to another, and 1 bag of silver to the last, dividing it in proportion to their abilities. Then he left on his trip. So this rich man goes to his servants and he says, I'm going away, but I'm going to give you some of my money so that you can do with it what you think is best. And in that way, he could learn whether or not he could trust him and what they would do if they were given a lot of responsibility. So he goes on his trip and leaves this test behind for his servants. Now, you can tell already that he trusts some servants more than others. One of them he gave 5 bags of silver to, and another he only gave 1. So he already knows that some of his servants are more capable than others. But he's going to give them a chance to prove themselves and to see what they do with just a little bit of responsibility. So let's take a look and see what they do. We're going to pick up reading at verse 16. The servant who received the 5 bags of silver began to invest the money and earned 5 more. The servant with 2 bags of silver also went to work and earned 2 more. But the servant who received the 1 bag of silver dug a hole in the ground and hid the master's money. So we find these servants, and they are doing different things. 2 of them took the money, went to work. The guy with the 5 bags went and he invested it. He put it in other businesses. He maybe loaned money out for interest, or maybe he bought a small business that he thought was going to do well, and so he made his money that way, and he doubled his money. He went from 5 bags of silver all the way to 10. The guy with 2 did something similar. He took his money, he put it to work, he found a place to invest it or to spend it maybe on starting his own business or doing his own little thing, and earned 2 more bags. So now he has 4 bags. Now the guy who only had 1, which we know the servant or the master only kind of trusted, took that and buried it in the ground somewhere. I mean, I guess it's responsible to keep it in a safe place, but that's all he did with it. He just took it, buried in the ground, said, I don't want to lose this money. And so the master's gone away. They're all doing their thing. And then the master comes back. And he asks them, to give an account and say, what did you do with my money? Starting at verse 20, we're going to see what each of their responses was. Verse 20 says, the servant whom he had entrusted with 5 bags of silver came forward with 5 more. Master, you gave me 5 bags of silver to invest, and I have earned 5 more. So Mr. 10 Bags comes up and he says, here you go. You gave me these, and I'm giving you these extra. I have doubled your money, and I did it by investing. Very cool. Guy number 2 comes up. Verse 22. The servant who had received 2 bags of silver came forward and said, Master, you gave me 2 bags of silver to invest, and I have earned 2 more. So he comes up to the master and says, this is what I did with it. I started a business, and that business earned 2 extra bags of silver just for you. And to these servants the master said, well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling a little amount, and now I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together. That's verses 21 and 23. Both servants were given praise, and the master celebrated them and said, you guys have done a great job. You've taken what I've given you and you've made something out of it. You've made more out of it. You've taken a little responsibility and you've been responsible with it. And you've proved to me that I can trust you. Now we go to the third guy. Now this guy, the master only kind of trusted. And so the master wasn't sure how he would do. And this is the guy who went and buried the money. Let's see what he said. Verses 24 through 29. Then the servant with 1 bag of silver came and said, Master, I knew you were a harsh man, harvesting crops you didn't plant and gathering crops you didn't cultivate. I was afraid I would lose your money, so I hid it in the earth. Look, here is your money back. But the master replied, You wicked and lazy servant, if you knew I harvested crops I didn't plant and gathered crops I didn't cultivate, why didn't you deposit my money in the bank? At least it could have gotten some interest on it. Then he ordered, Take the money from this servant and give it to the one with 10 bags of silver. To those who use well what they are given, even more will be given, and they will have an abundance. But from those who do nothing, even what they have will be taken away. That's a pretty harsh conversation. The master was not happy at all with what this servant was doing. And as a result, he took what little he had been given and gave it to someone else. You see, God gives us each talents, gifts, skills, responsibilities, families, things to look after, people to tell about Jesus, and he wants to see what we do with them. It's kind of like a test to see, will you do, can you do, are you going to do what you were created to do? And we can take these things and we can demonstrate our faith in Jesus by doing them. This also applies when we are at home with our families. When your parents give you responsibilities like clean your room or feed your pets, they're giving you a small task, not a lot of responsibility, but if you can prove that you can do those things, then they will give you more. And you'll have more responsibility and you'll have more freedom because you can be trusted. It's with these little things that we prove that we're trustworthy. So even if you look at your life and you say, well, I wish I could do this, or I want to do great things, but I can't because I'm just a kid. This is when we prove what we can do. And this is when we show that we can be trusted with big, important things. And we prove it to God, and we prove it to our family and our friends and those around us. I encourage you guys, look for the little things that you've been entrusted with and do a great job with them. And in that way, you can show that you can be trusted with bigger things. We love you guys. We miss you guys. Pay attention to the church emails, as there's going to be some exciting information and stuff coming out if you haven't already seen some of it. If you're not getting the church emails, go to the website and you can connect with the church and make sure that you're getting those emails and staying informed. Hopefully we'll see you guys again soon. We love you and have a great week.